Thank you for joining us this evening on the Jennylyn Show. Tonight, I'm having fun here speaking with Randy J. Gordon. And I said I'm having fun because he's about to tell us about the first ever new and exciting project, and he'll fill us in on the details in a few minutes. Randy, thank you for coming up here tonight and doing this show.
Thank you for having me, Jennylyn. I appreciate it.
And so I'm happy that we're doing this because I get to tell everybody about this new and exciting thing that's going to be done for the very first time. What is this thing?
That's true. This is the first time ever that there will be a Hanukkah time frame basketball tournament. And it's a tournament that's really going to be set for all ages. I mean, going to 60 and over all the way down to 10 and under. So it's not so much for college players and it's not so much for high school players. It's really a tournament for the rest of us.
That's awesome.
So,
the rest of us.
The rest of us.
As in our older people. Is
well,
that what you're saying?
I'm calling it a tourney for the ages, and
okay.
It's got all kinds of taglines. But yeah, it's really for multiple age groups. It's for men and women, and the interesting twist on it, even though it is Hanukkah, which is the festival of lights celebrated by Jews around the world, it is actually not a Jewish person tournament. It really is for all races and for all religions. You know, boys, girls, men, women, and I see it as a big giant melting pot that just happens to be played during the Hanukkah time frame, during the first 4 nights of Hanukkah.
That's great. So it will be 4 nights, not 1 night.
It's actually going to be, you know what, I spoke out of turn. It's going to be 5 nights and 4 days. It'll start on December the 19th. It'll conclude December the 23rd. So it won't interfere at all with Christmas Eve, you know, and Christmas in general. It'll be over by then. Although Hanukkah this year comes late, it's based on the Jewish calendar, so it's never in the exact same days from a year-to-year basis. But this year it's from December 20th through the 28th. And just so I can sneak all the games in and finish everything up and award all the trophies by the 23rd, we're actually going to start it the night before the first night of Hanukkah, so actually on December the 19th.
And this was your idea?
And this was my idea.
Brilliant. So tell me, where is it going to take place?
It will take place in Hayward, California, so over in the East Bay, at a magical venue that opened up within the last year called Dream Courts. And Dream Courts is basically the largest indoor sporting facility in the U.S., is what I've been told by the folks who run it. It's 400,000 square feet of just indoor sports mecca madness, and they have 17 basketball courts altogether, 7 of which are NBA regulation basketball courts, so with the glass backboards and the beautiful wooden ceilings. It looks like it's right out of the movie Hoosiers or something. It
sounds so exciting. So what made you come up with this idea? Where did it come from? Where did it stem from?
Well, there's always been a fascination between Jews and the sport of basketball, and it really dates back to when Naismith invented the game. But really, it's just something that it's very ingrained in the Jewish culture. We don't really have many famous Jewish basketball players. There's a handful of them. There are currently only 2 Jewish players in the National Basketball Association, Jordan Farmar, who came out of UCLA, and then Amari Stoudemire, who used to play for Phoenix and now plays for the New York Knicks, and he converted. But if you look back through the history of Jews in basketball, there are some players like Dolph Schayes and Larry Brown, Lenny Rosenbluth, who played at North Carolina. There are some amazing coaches that have come through. Red Holtzman from the New York Knicks, and Red Auerbach from the Boston Celtics, and there was Abe Saperstein, who founded the Harlem Globetrotters. So Jews seem to excel very much when it comes to management, ownership, kind of putting the whole thing together, maybe building some of the actual venues. And we love to play basketball. It's just historically, you don't really find Jews in the top 50 of the NBA players of all time. But it doesn't mean that we don't love the game itself.
So you're going to create history and change that.
Well, I'm going to actually kind of use the Hanukkah time frame, almost as a platform to try to educate people who don't really know much about Hanukkah. And they might view it as like, well, that's just the Jewish Christmas. And that's, probably an unfair description. I mean, it's the Festival of Lights. It dates back 2,000 years. It certainly happened after the Bible was written, so you don't really read about Hanukkah in the Bible. But what I'm trying to accomplish is a tournament that really involves Jews and non-Jews. My one caveat is basically that you will have however many people that will be on a team that can vary anywhere from 8 to 12 players. But what I'm pretty much going to use as a qualifier is that at least one person on that team, whether they play or they don't play, needs to be Jewish. And hopefully that might give a player who is Jewish an opportunity to integrate with other people, because that player would be able to sign their team on to be able to play in this tournament. And my hope really is what this tournament's going to be nationally and globally, years from now. So it'll start here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area at Dream Courts. But the real big picture is that in 2012, my hope is that Hanukkah Hoops will actually be in 12 markets starting December 12th, 2012. So on 12/12/12, I want to be in 12 markets, and then really have it expand from there, and have this something that really becomes, a legacy that will go on for years and years. But it starts here in the Bay Area.
Setting a trend. I think it's great. So how are you planning to get the word out there so people can come and participate? And is there a charge? I mean, what does it require? How do you become a part of it?
Well, the Eventbrite page will be up just after December the 1st,
okay,
which is good because the tournament's going to be December the 19th, so a lot of things have to happen in a very short period of time. I would say that I've been in stealth mode until all the legal trademarking started, to be able to trademark this event as an athletic event and also be able to sell apparel relating to Hanukkah Hoops. So it'll start with a $180 entry fee into the tournament, and of that $180, $48 will actually be donated to charitable causes, namely Jewish Family and Children's Services, but also to an organization up in San Rafael, California called Roots of Peace. And I really am a big fan of what they're doing, what their organization's been doing since 1997, basically demining minefields and going into places in the Middle East like Israel and Afghanistan to extract landmines and replace these fields with vines that hopefully will be like bountiful, vines where wine can be made. But in addition to that, to be able to put in athletic courts, where mines used to be. So I really like what they're about, in addition to Jewish Family and Children's Services. But it starts with a $180 entry fee through Eventbrite or at Dream Courts, and that gets your team in to play a minimum of 3 basketball games during the first 3 days of the tournament, and then we'll have semifinals and finals played out over the final 2 nights.
Very impressive. That's going to take a lot of planning, especially since you have no yardstick that you're using. This is just like a new thing.
Well, it's the Wild West, and therefore it probably should start in the West. It's it's kind of wide open territory, and but I'm a big believer in the lives of people that this can actually touch. Like, true, there will be competitive basketball being played, but just to be able to learn about what Hanukkah is all about, and have maybe the Hanukkah menorah candles being lit each evening while the tournament is actually going on, but still inviting so many people from different walks of life, different religions, and different age groups to get together and play a little basketball.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
It really is. It's what a way to unite people, and embrace each other regardless of whatever philosophies you share. But I know you've brought some material with you, and we don't have a lot of time. Did you want to talk about the stuff that you've brought, like the book? What is the book? How is that related to all of what's happening?
Well, actually, I brought the book the story of Hanukkah, you know,
Okay.
and this is, you know, Hanukkah books are available all over the internet and your local libraries, so I encourage people to even find very simple, you know, books almost written for children just to find out about the Maccabees and what happened 2,000 years ago when the menorah in the temple in Jerusalem only had a certain amount of oil to be able to burn candles, but it actually lasted for 8 days. And there's a very big story there that I encourage people to learn about. So it starts there. There's a book that just came out by a gentleman who lives in Austin, Texas, named Neil Pollack. And the book is actually called Jew Ball. And so this book is really all about Jews playing basketball in the 1920s and the 1930s, you know, back east in towns like Philadelphia. It actually centers around the South Philadelphia Hebrew Association basketball team, and it chronicles stories about, you know, players back in the day, like Inky Lautman, and it's a fascinating read. It just came out. I encourage everybody to check Amazon and look into to Jew Ball, because it really kind of gets into just a lot of the history and the fascination that I was just telling you about. But as I was doing research, I started finding out that there's a DVD called The First Basket, and it's almost like a Jewish basketball Hall of Fame, talking about just some of the famous Jews that have been involved with the sport. So again, they're the underpinnings of this history, you know, that fuels people to want to learn a little bit more about it, you know, particularly Jews. You know, but again, this is a tournament really for everybody. So I'm hoping that everybody can set aside differences and just be able to get together, you know, over the course of, you know, 25 to 40 minutes and play against one another in a good, healthy spirit of competition.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, so you are going to be putting on this festival. I'm just kind of wrapping it up, making sure that we cover everything. What do you want people to know that we haven't discussed that's critical to make this whole event come together?
Well, I want people to be able to go to the website, and it's very simple. It's HanukkahHoops.com, and here's the interesting thing with Hanukkah. You'll find that there are a lot of spellings. Hanukkah can be spelled with a C. It can be spelled with 2 Ks in the middle. It can have an H at the end or just an A. So if you go on Wikipedia, I mean, you'll find that the most common spelling is what I went with. It's actually Hanukkah with an H, 2 Ks, and an H at the end. And if you sandwich that with hoops, you'll get HanukkahHoops.com. And hopefully what you'll find when you go to the website, which will go up pretty much right after the 1st of December, it's up there now, but it's kind of a little bit of a tease site. But, you know, you'll find video and you'll find some stories and you'll find about what's going to happen between now and this coming December, but what also will be happening between now and 2012 as we lead up to December 12, 2012, in all these markets. And I'm sure I'll have some factoid stories about Israel becoming a state in 1948, and that's why I'm donating $48 for every entry fee to charitable organizations. And you know, you'll find out that there are 9 candle holders on your standard menorah, because the candle in the middle is the shamus, and that's always the one that's lit first. And when you say the blessing over the lights during Hanukkah, you will light candles from left to right. So on the final night, you'll have 9 candles here representing the 8 nights of Hanukkah and the 1 shamus. And you know, it's just, hopefully a lot of people will just discover more about the religion and you know, see what people like Adam Sandler point out to everybody. It's 8 crazy nights. And,
well, thank you so much. I don't mean to cut you off, but we've run out of time, and I really wish you success with this.
Thank you.
And I hope we can play a part.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thank you. This is Jennylyn, continuing my interviews with Randy Gordon. And this segment of our interview, we are going to be discussing the first ever Transmedia Film Festival. Randy has worked on film festivals in the past, and so Randy, what other film festivals have you done?
Well, my first film festival working experience actually was with the Sausalito Film Festival, and it was the first ever Sausalito Film Festival in August of 2009.
Okay.
I worked on that for 2 years. It's already had 3 years, and I transitioned to work on another film festival called the New Media Film Festival, which is going into its 3rd year, and that's an LA-based film festival. That's Los Angeles to you and me. But they also do a one-day event in San Francisco, which we just completed back in early November at the Lumiere Theater in Lower Nob Hill. So those 2 film festivals, and that's what's leading into
Transmedia.
Transmedia, kind of the buzzword media darling of Silicon Valley, which you guys have a lovely studio right in the heart of Silicon Valley. So I'm sure Transmedia is a word that has entered into the hallowed halls of KMVT. And but Transmedia Film Festival has not really been done before. There is New Media, there is the Social Media Film Festival, but this will be the first ever Transmedia Film Festival, and it'll take place in San Francisco in April of 2012.
So tell my viewers, what is Transmedia?
Transmedia to me is, the word itself is really cross-media. It's cross-platform. It's how intellectual property, whether that's a TV show or a video game, crosses over into different platforms. So if it started as a television show, maybe it became a movie, then it maybe became a video game and a board game and a game for your iPad, and maybe it's something that kind of crossed over into iTunes, but it found its way to pretty much every screen. They used to call it the 3rd screen, but there are just so many devices that are in use, mobile-wise, and so Transmedia crosses over into mobile, and I'm sure once holographic becomes the thing, something that you and I discussed at the New Media Film Festival, I'm sure that it'll basically live, in some sort of an icon hologram that will be like, playing above some, coffee table, and it'll be, 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional or whatever dimension it happens to live in.
It's so amazing, all the stuff that's happening now with media, with television, with all this stuff, And where is it going to take place in April? The
venue is to be determined. We're reviewing venue plans. When I say we, Andre Champagne Patrick, who does a lot of film work and camera work and production in the Bay Area, is the one who basically secured the URL for Transmedia Film Festival. And relatively recently, we were surprised it was available. And we have several places in mind, but we want to make sure it's the right location, so we're going to be reviewing various parts of the city, what's going to be accessible to a lot of people. There was a conference that happened, it was the first Transmedia conference called Story World, and that happened in San Francisco. I think it was Halloween through November the 2nd.
Right.
So it's still fresh in a lot of people's minds, and there was a panel event that we have a Facebook group in San Francisco called Renaissance SF.
Right.
And there was a venue in Palo Alto called Talent House.
Right.
Talent House works with musicians and people in film and television, and kind of like melds everything together for more entertainment options. And essentially they hosted a Transmedia panel that we had November the 15th, and they were also one of the venues for the first ever Palo Alto Film Festivals. So a lot of first ever, whether it's Palo Alto Film Festival or Story World, so why not have there be a Transmedia Film Festival? And for something like that to occur, it seems like the San Francisco Bay Area is the right DMA for that to take place.
Of course, this is the Silicon Valley, right?
This is.
This is where it all happens.
This is Sillywood. This is where, I keep on hearing about Silicon Valley meets Hollywood, and everyone's talking about the Sillywood shuffle.
Oh, I like that.
So
Sillywood.
we talk about, everything going holographic. We talk about Sillywood, but there's so many things that are happening in the Bay Area, all the way up to Marin County. There's so many things that are happening in Emeryville, with Pixar and Expression College of Design, and there's just a lot of content that is being created and collaborated on, and we are in San Francisco, which tends to be a very open source, community. Your intellectual property is your intellectual property, but the model that's been living well and certainly breaming with cash down in Southern California and Los Angeles tends to be a closed studio model.
Right.
But in San Francisco, we just think there's a lot more willingness, for collaboration, and we just want there to be more content being created, so it creates more jobs for skilled workers who already live in the Bay Area who want to remain here and don't want to move to, to India, or they don't want to move to Canada, and they don't necessarily want to be in Southern California.
Well, there's so many talented producers also who have never had a platform to really show their work, because just like everything else, it's all about who you know in certain industries.
I've heard that.
And so I think now with YouTube, people can just put anything up there, and if it's good, it goes viral, and next thing you know, the person is getting an opportunity to give birth to their talents and their ideas.
Right.
So this Transmedia Film Festival, is it open to anybody? Is it open to people from, I remember the one in San Francisco, you had people from all over the country attending.
All over the country and all over the world. But that's what Transmedia Film Festival is intended to be. It's going to be very open source, and it will be posted on Without a Box. So if you are a content maker, you can go to withoutabox.com, and that's how people enter film festivals these days. I mean, with the exception of these prestigious film festivals like a Sundance or a Mill Valley or a Toronto or a Venice, what have you. Unless it's a film festival that really is selecting exactly what they want,
right,
people go to Without a Box, and it's like applying to grad schools.
Right.
You go to one location, you fill out, I want to apply to these particular film festivals, so Transmedia Film Festival will be no different, and you'll find multiple categories that'll include everything from shorts to animation to music, and it will become viral itself. It'll grow from there.
Right. So when are you guys going to start publicizing this? Because I mean, April sounds very far away, but you and I both know it really isn't.
It's right around the corner.
Exactly.
It's just down the hall, and it's the third door on the left. It's right around the corner. Well, we're announcing it right here as we speak on the Jennylyn show.
But you haven't told anybody where it's going to be.
Well, we believe in there being, like, in order for things to go viral, there has to be buzz, and it has to be released in layers.
Right.
And so it's like any good book, reading, whether it's Harry Potter or Lemony Snicket, there's always a reveal. So the transmediafilmfestival.com has a splash screen,
okay, and
we will start layering in content and start telling more about, who, what, when, where, and why, and then we'll figure out the how as we proceed, and as we kind of look at our space and see, who we can attract. But we think that there's a lot of talent that is pretty much within a 50-mile radius, of downtown San Francisco.
That's great. You really got your hands full. I mean, you've got this big event coming up in December, and then you guys are working on the film festival. I think it's really great.
I don't sleep very much.
You don't? What is your trick? What's your secret?
No secrets. It's all. I think I'm high on life. I think it's the endorphins, and when you're working on something that's the first ever, I think there will be time to sleep. Later in life, but while we're young, while we're under 50, and even if you're over 50, it's kind of how you feel. And when you're working on something that really fuels you, the hours seem to kind of slide by. You could do 1,000 things, you could do 100 things, and somehow or another you find those 250 things to make sure you get done right.
Completely agree, because I love when I do anything in television, so I could just work on every and anybody's show, and I don't feel like I'm working, because I love it.
Right.
So what do you need people to know now for the film festival? What do they need to know? Because say someone in Germany is interested. I mean, it's going to require a lot of planning.
Well, films these days, that process could be a 2-year process, but now, people, it's like the disposable film festival. People are shooting things on their iPhones. They're shooting things on cameras. They're going to be posting, movies via Twitter. It's going to be all happening through Bitleys, and you're going to be seeing things like one scene at a time. So we throw down the gauntlet to the people who are making the content, and that goes, you know, for the 10-year-old kid that wants to do something with their classmates that's creative. This open source mentality of Transmedia really does not weed out, you know, anybody. So you can be 80 and you can be 8. And we just encourage you to make content. The submissions should be open probably right around the first of the year. That'll give us time to kind of sift through, you know, all these different categories of content and decide what we're going to put out there come April. But that pretty much gives us January and February and the first part of March to see, and we'll be able to accept content, you know, pretty much up through the end of March, and we can make last-minute decisions because we want to discover that next great filmmaker that no one knew was a filmmaker.
Awesome. I was privileged to be a part of the New Media Film Festival in San Francisco, and I was very impressed with the productions that I was able to sit and watch. And so I'm really glad that you guys are providing these types of venues for people to come and show their work.
Thank you.
And, you know, hopefully, you know, be able to produce more and have a place where they can go and get people to find out about it. So you've had a total of about 5 years of working in the film festival industry. Or have you been able to see what you don't want to repeat that will actually make this venture, although a new one, almost perfect?
Well, you know, I guess having worked in events most of my working life, and that includes managing, you know, a music tour, that includes working on sporting events, it includes being involved with World Cup, Super Bowl. I have certainly seen several mistakes made, and I've certainly been a part of some of those mistakes being made.
Good.
You know, there's nothing really that stands out. I mean, even taking a chance, I'll give a great example. Sausalito Film Festival in the first year showed a secret film that nobody in it on the final night, and you know, nobody knew what that film was going to be, largely because that film was not done. So in fact, like, the final rough cut was rushed up from Los Angeles so people could see a work in progress. And at the end of the day, maybe 30% of the people liked it. And you know, but you take those kind of chances when you have this rebel spirit and you're willing to take risks, you know, and you learn and you apply that to the next year. But we will have reviewed everything to know what we're going to show, and it'll be in a very engaging first ever Transmedia Film Festival.
Brilliant. So we're down to a minute as the time goes by, always when we're doing these fun things and learning about other people's exciting projects. Is there a website you want people to know about so that they know where to contact you guys? I know you mentioned it before. Would you like to say it again?
Would love to. Would love for people to check out transmediafilmfestival.com. And in addition to that, there is a Facebook group called Renaissance SF. There's a website, renaissancesf.ning.com. And a lot of information will be kind of doled out through Renaissance SF and through transmediafilmfestival.com.
Well, thank you, Randy. I'm looking forward to being a part of this big news, Transmedia news event.
We're looking forward to having you.
Thank you. And I thank my crew, who are my friends. I could never do this without them.
Thank you, crew.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a great evening. Goodbye.